Okay, let's just jump right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a sensory-guided tour straight into a royal kitchen from 1127 CE. We're going to discover how some of our absolute favorite modern meals were actually perfected centuries ago. So, I want you to mentally leave your modern kitchen behind for just a few minutes. We're traveling back to the heart of the Western Chalukya dynasty in India to uncover some ancient culinary secrets that are absolutely going to change how you view your next meal. Imagine this. You're walking through the grand palace doors of King Someshvara III's capital. The intense heat of the cooking fires hits you. The smell of roasted spices totally fills the air, and you look over at the prep tables. There you find cooks preparing the exact same comforting yogurt dumplings we know today. Sitting right next to, wait for it, skewered rodents. I mean, it's this wild mix of the delightfully familiar and the absolutely bizarre. It really makes you wonder what actually qualified as a royal craving back then, doesn't it? So, our map for this whole tour is the Manasollasa. It's an incredibly fascinating encyclopedia. The title translates to Delights of the Mind, and it's famous because it just completely threw out all those strict ancient religious and medical dietary rules. Up until then, texts basically only cared about what you shouldn't eat. But the Manasollasa, it was entirely dedicated to pure, unadulterated gastronomic pleasure. The authors basically just wanted the food to actually taste good. And what's truly fascinating here is the sheer scale of their obsession with food. Inside this massive 100-chapter encyclopedia, there are exactly 1,820 poetic verses dedicated entirely to the love of food, highly specific recipes, and dining aesthetics. To put that into perspective, that is a massive amount of text just focusing on culinary joy. It proves the 12th century elite weren't just eating to survive. They were dining with a level of sophistication that honestly rivals modern foodies today.
Part 1. The Royal Pantry. Rules of the Seasons.
Let's step away from the bustling main floor and head into the royal pantry. In here, these 12th century chefs weren't just throwing ingredients together, they were operating like meticulous scientists, strictly bound by the laws of nature. The Manasollasa demanded that every single meal be perfectly synced with the seasons. And this wasn't just a friendly suggestion, it was a hard rule to ensure the king experienced the absolute best taste at the exact right time of year. Think about it. Pungent foods to wake up the palate in the spring, sweet and cold things to cool down the brutal summer heat, salty cravings for the monsoon, and hot, spicy dishes to survive the winter. They completely understood seasonal eating like 900 years before it became a trendy modern restaurant buzzword.
But it wasn't just about the seasons. The cooks also had to masterfully balance 6 basic flavor groups. Every single royal meal was this delicate, high-wire act of sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent notes. They followed strict food chemistry. For instance, they meticulously paired heavy meats with sour items to cut the richness, and they matched highly acidic foods with salt to kind of mellow out the bite. It was a real science.
Actually, if you lean in closely to their spice racks right now, you'll catch the incredibly pungent aroma of their most widely used spice preparation. We're talking about asafoetida, or hing, completely dissolved in water. And this really shows the lasting power of good culinary technique, because this exact same method for blooming the spice is still widely used in places like Karnataka and Maharashtra today.
Part 2. The Prep Stations. 12th Century Fast Food.
Okay, now we're heading over to the really loud, bustling frying stations. The heavy sizzle of hot oil here reveals the surprising 900-year-old origins of our absolute favorite street food snacks. Just look at how these ancient medieval names draw a direct, mouth-watering line straight to the modern fast food staples that we all know and love. We've got Dosa transforming into the beloved crispy Dosa. We have the deep-fried discs of pudika evolving into today's popdi, and polika acting as the ancient ancestor to the sweet puran poli. Alongside the familiar crunch of the parika for their version of medieval chaat, the royal cooks were super busy whipping up what are essentially the grandfathers of modern-day fast food. They were soaking urad dal dumplings with pepper and yogurt. Does that sound familiar? Because it's literally the exact same thing as our modern dahi vada. They also prepared peas pattis and 5 lentil fritters, which are the direct predecessors to the dal vadas we eat today.
So, here's a crucial point. While all these vegetarian snacks look incredibly familiar and comforting to us, we kind of have to ask ourselves, what happened when King Someshvara III was craving a more carnivorous, exotic feast? Like, what was the medieval equivalent of a massive mixed grill?
Well, taking a slightly darker detour over to the royal meat skewers, which, by the way, were essentially 12th century kebabs, we find some truly bizarre delicacies requested by the king. You'd find offal and black puddings made from sheep's blood. You'd see roasted tortoises. And yes, right there, roasting over the open flame, you'd find a royal order of barbecued river rats. No way around it, that's what he wanted.
For seafood lovers, though, the text goes to just astonishing lengths. I mean, it meticulously catalogs 35 different varieties of fish. It documents their habitats, their sizes, and get this, exactly what the fish should be fed while they are still alive to ensure the absolute best flavor once cooked. They served fried rohu, which is still super popular in North India today. And they had these really strict scientific rules, noting that crab meat must absolutely be cooked in copper vessels to preserve its unique, delicate flavor.
Now, to wash down all those heavy meats and rich spices, let's stop by the refreshment stand. They offered a drink called panika, which is this medieval concoction of fresh fruit expertly blended with buttermilk. If that sounds to you exactly like the modern fruit smoothies dominating your social media feeds right now, well, you're right. They also served majika, sprinkled with pepper and molasses. That's basically the ancient equivalent of today's super refreshing spiced buttermilk, or chas.
But hey, if the king wanted something a little stronger, the Manasollasa had that covered too. They had an absolute mastery of beverages. Sure, they knew how to make standard wine from grapes and sugarcane, but they also utilized completely unusual brewing sources. They crafted these deeply intoxicating royal wines out of palm, known as tali madhya, coconut, called narikela sava, and even dates, known as khajura sava.
Part 3. Plating and Service. From Clay to Gold.
As our tour through the smoke and spices winds down, let's observe the final and, honestly, perhaps the most crucial stage of the entire culinary process, the art of plating and serving the king. Because, as we all know, how the food arrives is just as important as how it's cooked. The Manasollasa insists on a very specific two-step procedure to guarantee both incredible flavor and spectacular luxury. Step 1. The cooks had to prepare the dishes entirely in earthen vessels. This proves they understood exactly how clay enhances and deepens the taste profile of Indian food. But, a king can't just eat out of a basic clay pot. So step 2, right before service, the food was carefully transferred to solid gold or gold-plated utensils. It's the ultimate combination. Superior earthy taste meets pure royal swagger.
Before we leave the kitchen entirely, take a look at this incredibly complex salad that the cooks are preparing over here. It features raw mango, plantain, bitter gourd, and jackfruit, and it's all tossed in this highly sophisticated sesame and black mustard seed dressing. What's truly wild is that the text actually lists 40 native fruits consumed at the time that have 0 English equivalents today. They're just lost to time. But this specific dish, it perfectly balanced those 6 flavors we talked about earlier, all in one single bite.
In fact, food historian Colleen Taylor-Sen really hits the nail on the head regarding this culinary mastery. She notes that this is a platter that could quite well be on the menu of a trendy molecular gastronomy restaurant today. So this 12th century kitchen wasn't primitive at all. It was essentially practicing high-end culinary science centuries ahead of its time.
Thank you so much for taking this explainer tour with me through the fires and flavors of the Manasollasa. Seeing how deeply rooted our food culture really is leaves us with one seriously fascinating thought to take away. If our favorite, most modern culinary trends, from smoothies to seasonal flavor balancing to fast food street snacks, are actually 900 years old, what forgotten ancient dishes are just waiting for us to rediscover them next?